right, YouTube. It is Mr. Mean coming at you this Wednesday afternoon, January 15th, 2020. We have made it through another week, and it's time for a video. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way first. As always, like and subscribe. Hit that bell to be dinged when I dong so you don't ding dong. That'll give you notification that I've posted a new video. I try to get 1 or 2 videos up a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. It all depends. As always, like and subscribe. Let your friends know I'm on ZellyPay. And I shouldn't say I'm on ZellyPay. I'm able to take ZellyPay. It's baked into your American banking institution on your phones. 90% of them have ZellyPay, and it's instantaneous, and there's no fees involved, so it's free for you, free for me. Be aware that any donations go back into the channel, like this awesome, well, this is not my internet YouTube chair, it's out in the living room, but you know, the books and stuff that I buy and to upgrade my equipment goes, it all goes back into the channel. So, and it's much appreciated. Appreciate everybody who donates. You can also donate through PayPal Pay Me. There's a link on my YouTube page. It's a tiny little thing all the way over in the right hand corner, but you can definitely donate that way. I'm also on MeWe. There's a link on my YouTube page, and I'm also on Discord. And there's a link on my YouTube page as well. So I'm on there throughout the day. Feel free to shoot me a message or talk about games or GMing or as a player point of view. Whatever you guys like to talk about, I'm there. Or, you know, there's pretty active. Some people are always talking, or at least they're online. Feel free to jump in, join the community. I appreciate it. I do pay for the Discord server. And of course, donations go to pay for that as well. So anyway, we are up to 618 subscribers. You guys are amazing. I think we barely had over 600 2 weeks ago, and so now we're up to 618. So thank you guys very much. A quick shout out to all the new subscribers. This is in no particular order, but this is over the last 2 weeks, because I think I didn't do one for the D&D video, or the Pathfinder video, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But A. Bassick, Tyler Baptiste, Phineas Cromwell, awesome username, Megatama227, Anthony Estep, and Janek Zly. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. I hope you enjoy your time here with Mr. Mean. And if there's anything you want to see or you want to talk about, you know, put a note below in the video notes. I do go back and look at all of them. I try to reply to everybody. I've missed 1 or 2 here and there, but for the most part, I do manage to at least like it or heart it if I think it was I gotta say, I have 99.9% positive feedback. I really appreciate that, guys. I mean, it's your time. You choose to spend it watching me, and I will tell you that it is much appreciated, and I enjoy it. I do this as a hobby, and it's just great that the channel's growing, and we're doing a lot of cool stuff. So on to new stuff. What's new for 2020? It's a new year. It's a new me. It's a new you, as Michael Bublé would say. Any of my friends out there that like that kind of music will know what I'm talking about. I recorded last week, our Pathfinder 2nd edition game. It's a home game. It's very crude. It is not amazing video. There's no awesome intros or anything like that. It's just a bunch of nerds sitting around the table playing Pathfinder role-playing game. But got some really good reviews. Everybody wants to see more. So we're going to stream it again this Friday. I'm not going to live stream it yet because I'm just not ready for that. I do understand how to do it, but I have to test it and play with it. And I need someone to be a moderator for the chat, because I can't run the game and watch the chat if people are having questions. And I think part of a live stream is you should have that interaction with the people that are watching it. And then one of the things in the future I want to do is set up like a donation thing. So when you do a donation, the moderator would be able to see it. And like if you wanted to give someone a bonus roll or give them an extra, you know, luck point or hero point or whatever, you would have ways to do that. So, but that's a little ways down the line. We have a very stable group right now. We try to play every Friday, but due to schedules and stuff, sometimes we have to skip. One of our players is a reservist. One of our other players is a manager for a local company, and so he travels sometimes. So we have to be cognizant of that and be aware of their schedules and respect them. So I don't want to guarantee that every Friday there's going to be a game session, but we're going to try to broadcast every Friday if we can. If we're running the Pathfinder game, and we're running the current adventure and scenario that I've written, I want to post it. And like I said, I got awesome feedback. Everybody seems to really enjoy it. There's one bad scene where there's my big fat ass blocking the whole screen, and I apologize for that. But this is what you get, man. It's a home campaign, and I'm not a professional editor or anything like that. So I just hit record, set it all up, and let it go. I am going to try to buy a mic. So if anyone has a 360-degree mic that'll work with a computer and you want to donate it, please contact me. I don't need cutting edge equipment, but I just want something that works a little bit better. And right now I don't have the funds to go out and buy that. I've seen some really cheap ones on Amazon, but I'm hesitant to buy them. I mean, this is my Shure microphone right here, the Snowball. It is amazing, but it is a directional mic. So unfortunately, it doesn't pick up all of the audio as crisp and clear as I thought it would. So, and like I said, it was very unedited, very raw, but that's kind of what I want, although I don't want to bend over in front of the screen so you see my big fat ass on the screen. So I'll try not to do that. I'm going to go out and get a small table to sit in front of the table, so I'm sitting at an angle, and the camera will be coming from this way, so that if I do stand up, I'll stand up over here, and all you'll see is my big fat head and my glorious beard. Anyway, that's enough of that. So Fridays we'll be streaming, and it'll probably go up Saturday because we broadcast it Friday night. We usually play till around 11 midnight. We start at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do use my iPad as a GMing device, so in the short term, if you wanted to contact me via Discord, I can't guarantee that I will reply, but I do have my iPad there on the table with me, and so you could shoot me a message through my Discord channel if you wanted to lightly interact with the story. Like I said, I'm going to try to set up a donation thing where if you wanted to help the players and all that fun stuff, we might do that. I might also try to get with each player and set up a time to record like a slight intro of their character from their point of view so they could like describe it. Nothing fancy, nothing like that, but just something to give you a little bit more info on each character. And then we might have that play and have a link to it in each session so that you can go back and check it. So we'll see. That's being very ambitious. And like I said, I'm not a videographer or a professional, camera guy or anything like that. So I do this purely for fun, but people seem to enjoy the play. I want to say live play, but it wasn't. It was a live play, but it wasn't broadcasted live. Anyway, enough of that. Like I said, hit me up on Discord if you're interested in seeing more. I'm going to post it either late Friday night or early Saturday morning, and you guys will be able to watch the second episode. It's about our 5th or 6th episode in the game. The players are currently third level, and hopefully after tonight or next week they might hit 4th level. I haven't decided. Depends on what they do, but we'll leave that. We'll talk about it later when they're not watching. But tonight's video du jour. This is upcoming. We're going to talk about Trinity. I got another book coming. This is the intro book. This is modern day. I am not interested in this at all, but I do want to do a review of it. But I do have the sci-fi one coming with the psionic powers and everything, which is kind of like futuristic superheroes. It's very weird. Trinity's has a very sordid history, and so we're going to talk about all that. That's coming up next. That'll be the next video, probably next week. But tonight's video du jour is one that I would not have known about because I don't check their website for role-playing games. I didn't even know they did role-playing games, but my good friend Brian over in sunny California had sent this to me. So as a heads up and a clarification and full disclosure, I did not pay for this. It was sent to me as a gift from my friend Brian, and I have to say, Bri, I love you, bro. I'm infatuated with this game, and it might be the next game I run. I really, really dig this. So, guys, if you didn't know, Osprey Publishing has a subdivision called Osprey Games, and they now make role-playing games. This just came out this year. I don't know if it was Kickstarted. I think it was, but it was Osprey's Kickstarter, however they do it. And I gotta say, guys, if you haven't heard of Romance of the Perilous Lands, a role-playing game of British folklore, I'm going to tell you right now, before we even get into the review, buy this. It's that damn good. It's hardback. It's like almost digest size. It's small. It's like a chunky paperback. but it's hardback, written by Scott Malthouse and published by Osprey Games. Let me just read the blurb off the back, because that'll kind of set the tone here. Romance of the Perilous Land is a role-playing game of magic and adventure set in the world of British folklore. From the stories of King Arthur to the wonderful regional tales told throughout this green and pleasant land, it is a world of romantic chivalry, but also of great danger, with ambitious kings, evil knights, and thieving brigands terrorizing the land, while greedy giants, malevolent sorcerers, and water-dwelling knuckers lurk in the shadows. As valiant knights, mighty barbarians, subtle cunning folk, and more, the players are heroes roaming the land to fight evil, right wrongs, and create their own legend. Well, first of all, guys, this is a quick read. It is written in such a fashion that it just flows. It is, you can see I've got a couple bookmarks in here. I'm planning on running this, making a couple characters. This is probably as sweet of a game system as I've seen. They've taken the best of like Pathfinder and the best of D&D and the best of some fudge, and they've woven it all together to make a very cohesive, awesome little game. You can go to their website, you can download the character sheet. It's a very simple, very nice character sheet. They have a general use like OGL license, so you can read that on the back, so you can make stuff for this if you want and publish it, I believe. Full index, full table of contents, but this is the character sheet, and you can download that off of their website, and it is very well done. It is very clear. It's very concise. What's nice about this is, like I said, almost like a stripped down D&D, and I really, really like it. The mechanics seem to be, now I haven't run it. It may run like a lead brick in a water pond, but it from reading it, and I've read a lot of rules in my day, it reads very well. It seems like it would play very well. You have 5 attributes: might, reflex, charisma, constitution, and mind. And then you have skills which are based off of those, and it's your standard plethora of skills. You have hit points, total armor, valor points, which are basically luck points. You can use those to stave off death or to re-roll and things like that. You have your weapons, your class features, your talents, your description, your backstory, the languages, the equipment, and then general notes. This is a very clear and concise character sheet, and what's nice is if you go to the Osprey Games website, you go to their download section, this is the sheet you will download, but it fits on one 8.5 by 11 portrait, and it looks phenomenal. And if you have access to a color laser jet printer, it prints off really nice. I have one back there in the corner, and it prints phenomenal. I'll start off with, first and foremost, there's a little blurb. There's an introduction which goes from page 5 to page 12. So you get 7 pages of the introduction, and it's very nicely done. Talks about the folklore. This is the other thing I like. Before they even get into the rules, they say the golden rule of role-playing. Role-playing games are collaborative games where friends come together to tell exciting stories. The golden rule to remember when playing is that fun outweighs the rules as written. If a certain rule makes something less fun in a given situation and everyone agrees, change the rule. Like most role-playing games, you should feel free to create your own house rules for Romance of the Perilous Lands, if it enhances the fun of the game. So basically, they're saying, don't take it so serious. It's not verbatim. Make it your own. Have fun with it. And let's face it, we get around the table, we tell these fantastical stories to entertain us and our friends. And so if you're playing a rule set and it's just stupid and you're not having fun, change it. That's exactly what they're saying. And I love that. I think that's really great. They do give a quick example of play. They tell you what a role-playing game is. And then they, on page 9, they go into the world of the Perilous Land. And what's neat is this is Excalibur. This is Robin Hood. This is a little bit of Lord of the Rings, all rolled up into one. Your British folk tales, red caps and fairies and giants, they're all in here. and they're more taken from the British mythology than I would say Western American. And so there is a difference here, So if you read it and you go, "That's not a goblin," well, you're thinking probably of the Western goblin, which is completely different from the mythological goblin in European folklore and English folklore. So it's really cool. They kind of give you a little bit about that. They talk about the dark powers, the great search, playing in the age of valor, which is the age that the players are in. And then they give you a timeline, which I thought was great, because the world was ruled by giants, and then the Gaelish uprising, and then the age of magic, the arrival of the other world, which is where the fairies came in. The planes merged, and the veil was weak, and so fairies and other creatures were able to cross over. And in this mythical world, they procreated and they stayed, and now they're just part of the world, which is nice. The battle of the Emerald Plain. The arrival of humankind, the age of humanity, the dawn of cunning. Cunning folk is, if you're not British or of Eastern European, that term to us Yanks might not mean a whole lot, but to them it kind of means anybody who has, the way I interpret it in here, and I may be wrong, so if any of my European friends are watching this, please correct us if we're wrong, but the way this book interprets it is the cunning folk are anybody who can do magic. Because not everyone can do magic, and it's very rare and very exclusive to a very select few, and they do that. And then there's the Age of Camelot, of course, because it's taken from that realm. So King Arthur is alive and well, and his knights are out questing for the Grail, and you can play one of those Knights of the Round Table. You can play a lesser knight of the Round Table, and they give you all the information in here to do it. The death of Constantine, and that was a great mourning across Camelot. His son Uther Pendragon, King Arthur, would take up the throne in an inexperienced and somewhat reckless young leader who would have to learn the art of governance quickly. Merlin is a factor in here. Morgana Le Fay, Mordred. All characters in here and NPCs that you can, I would recommend if you run into Morgana Le Fay, you just run, or have a secondary character made. Same thing with Mordred. He's probably going to jack you up. Then there's the Dragon Wars, because dragons are a function here. Dragons are few and far between in the current age, because there was a big war and the dragons lost. The Age of Doom, which is when all the kingdoms fell under a great shadow. The death of Uther and the crowning of Arthur. I'm sorry, Uther was Arthur's father. I got my mythology wrong. See, I'm not even perfect. Knights of the Round Table, the betrayal of Mordred. We already talked about him. The Fisher King, which is another great, I believe that's an English folktale, is in here. And then the Great Search begins. That goes in. And then the Age of Valor, which is now, which is 63 CE to the present. Art in here is, if you own any other Osprey books, the art is fantastic. I believe it is full color art throughout the book. I don't believe there might be some black and white. Yeah, there's a little bit of black and white, but not much. It's more like page dividers. But all the major art is full color, and really well done. I mean, it was a great picture of a knight, a hedge knight maybe, or a barbarian and a knight, but I don't know. He's got a pentagram on his. And I don't believe pentagrams were always considered evil. I believe at one time they were just a religious symbol, just like the cross is today. So there's most of the art is very Arthurian in theme. Robin Hood is a prominent figure in here, and so there you can see there's some woodland archers. So the art is very thematic, very apropos. Obviously, this is a young druid or a wizard of some kind. Maybe that's Camelot in the distance. Who knows? Because it does exist. Oh, there's Arthur and the Lady in the Lake trying to get the sword, and I assume that's Merlin telling him about it. So yeah, all those stories you can intertwine in here, or can become a part of your land or your story as you're running the game. So the art is fantastic. The writing of the book is fantastic. Like I said, it flows. It's very easy to read. I've skimmed through the whole book, and now I'm reading specific sections. The mechanics are a little bit different than your standard D&D. They're a D20 mechanic, but you want to roll low. So that part is pretty cool. And to hit somebody else, it's your attack versus their defense, and it's minus, and then that's the target number you need to roll under. Same thing for damage, goes the same way. Your armor subtracts from damage. Once your armor is all gone, then you have no armor. It comes right off your hit points. So they have a very robust game mechanic. Skills and everything work well. Initiative works well. I wanted to see, there's talents and stuff, which I think is super cool. Yeah, there's a talents list, and when you go to certain levels, you get everything. So let's go through. Actually, we can do it through the index because it is an awesome index. Oh, it doesn't say the character classes. Page 25. I was hoping it would give a complete breakdown. So what's neat for characters here, this is your standard fantasy trope, but it's very well done. You have Knight, Ranger, Cunning Folk, that's your magic users, your Thief, your Barbarian, and your Bard. And of course, these classes will give you your hit dice, your hit points, your weapon proficiency, your armor proficiency, your save proficiency, your skills, and class features. So when you build a character, you actually build a character, and each class has a level. There's, I believe, 10 levels, and every other level you get a talent. Every other level you get a class feature, and then you get to add +2 every third, 3, 5, 7, and 9 for the Knight. Is it the same for all? Yeah, it's the same for all. You get, at every 3, 5, 7, and 9 levels, you get +2 to all attributes. So what's nice is, and it's a random roll, for it's 3d6 or 4d6 to create your stats, and then you assign them how you want, but the game doesn't penalize you horribly for having low stats. So if you get crappy rolls and you're rolling in front of your GM, and your GM says, well, that's what you got, you can know that there is light at the end of the rainbow, because when you hit 3rd level, and you do level pretty fast in this game, you're going to get a +2 to all your attributes. So it's not so horrible. And of course, they have the breakdown of bonuses and stuff you get for your attributes. They go through it. Yeah, so like your might, you get a damage bonus. So if you're less than 12 on your might, there's no damage bonus. But when you go to 12 to 14, you get a +1. 15 to 17 is a +2. 18 to 20 is a +3. 21 to 23 is a +4. And if your might is 24 or better, it's a +5. So it never goes up from there. But still, a +5 to damage is brutal. You get a hit die, and you get maximum hit die plus your bonus when you level, I believe, if I remember correctly. Let me make sure I'm speaking true. Hit point, character skills. Oh, that's skills. Character attributes. Yeah, so yeah, you don't get extra hit points based on your attributes. You just you get your hit points and you go from there. Yeah, you roll, like for the Knight gets a D10 for his hit points. So every time you level, you get a D10. I would just make it a house rule that you either take the average of the die, or you roll. And if because you could roll and get a 1, which sucks if you get a whole level and then you only get 1 hit point. I think that blows, but that's the way it is. The damage in the game, though, isn't super high. It can be. I mean, if you got an uber strength, you roll really good and you get an awesome strength, you can knock out some damage. But even if you hit and armor absorbs everything, or advantage or talents and everything knock the damage down, or knock the damage you take down to 0, you still take a minimum of 1 point of damage, which I like. So it doesn't make your hit worthless. So if you hit and they have uber armor, or you're hitting a big monster and they're really tough, you're still going to always do at least 1 point of damage to them, which I think is nice. So that's good to see. Your Ranger gets a D8 for his hit die, but of course he's proficient in all the stuff. And there's some class features. You get some talent, some herbalism for the Ranger. The Thief gets a D8 as well. And they're proficient in light and medium ranged weapons and light and medium armor. They have save, proficiency, and reflex and mind. So, and it goes through all of these. The cunning folk only get a d6. They are proficient in light ranged and light melee weapons and light armor. And then, of course, they get a bunch of skills in their starting equipment. Their spell casting from level 1. Cunning folk are able to cast spells from the spell list they begin with the same number of spell points as their mind attribute. So obviously there's some character customization. If you're going to be a cunning folk, you're going to be a wizard or something to that effect, you're going to want to put your highest numbers in mind, because that's how many spells you're going to get, which is kind of cool. You have a magic discipline at level 3. Cunning folk can choose to specialize in a certain magic discipline. Charms, conjuring, curses, healing, or scrying. The spell cost for spells in the chosen discipline are halved. So you choose basically what you're proficient in, and those spells cost you less, which is pretty cool. So Barbarian, same thing. Barbarian gets a D12 for hit die, because Barbarians are beast. And I think the image for the Barbarian is super cool. And there's only 10 levels to a character class, which is nice. So it is. This obviously lends itself to campaign play, but this is also, I would even go so far as this could be a fun pickup game. Like we're running Pathfinder, but everybody can't make it. 3 out of my 5 players shows up. We don't want to advance the storyline because we want the other players to be there. I might whip this out, because you could whip out a character in no time. And I think it would be fun. It's a super easy game. You have character backgrounds which give you benefits. So like if you choose let's find an interesting one. You can be a jester. So if you choose the jester, you get the following background skills: perform based off of charisma, and acrobatics based off of reflex. Your starting gear: 4 juggling balls, a jester's makeup, a yellow yoke book, and 5 gold pieces. Every class gets a certain amount of money to buy stuff when they start character creation, which I thought was really cool. So you get that, and then let's see. Then you have talents. Talents do some cool things, like let's find a good talent. Critical blow. You have to have, it has prerequisites. All the talents, or most of the talents, have some sort of prerequisite. So you just have to meet those prerequisites, which again, this is where your character planning comes in. But you have to have a might or a reflex of 12 or better. You are able to take advantage of your enemy's weaknesses in combat and strike a lethal blow. You score a critical strike on a 1 or a 2. Normally a critical would only be on a 1, but because you have critical blow, it's now on a 1 or a 2. And remember, rolling low is good, and you're rolling on a d20. So critical knockdown, the prerequisite is critical blow. Makes sense. When you strike true, you force your opponent to the ground. When you make a critical hit, the target is knocked prone. Of course, there's rules in here for what happens when you're prone. So I think just a lot of thought went into this game. I mean, it sounds almost like a clone of D&D 5th edition, but there's enough things that are different. Obviously, the attributes are different. The skills, it's a different skill list, but very similar. There's a lot of things that are almost the same, but different. And I think that's where it kind of shines and what makes it unique. And you got to roll low. D&D, you want to roll high. Pathfinder, you want to roll high. Here, you want to roll low. It's all about rolling low. And the better armor you have subtracts from their ability to hit you, or the better defenses you have subtract from their ability to hit you. Not necessarily, that is their damage that they do. The way you figure out how to hit someone is your agility, or your might or your agility. If you're using a range attack, it's agility. If you're using a melee attack, it's your might. And you subtract the creature's hit die level. So if you're fighting creatures, that are 1 hit die, which is pretty much your level 1 monsters, you're going to subtract 1 from your ability to hit them. So if you have a might of 12 and you're trying to hit them with your sword, and it doesn't matter what kind of weapon you're using, that doesn't factor in. Some of your talents might. But basically, so you have a 12 in might, you're going to subtract 1 from that. So now you need an 11 or less to hit that creature. Same thing for the creatures. You basically convert your character's level into hit dies, and it's a 1 for 1. So if you're level 2, you're a 2 hit die. If you're level 3, you're a 3 hit die. And that's what you're going to subtract to hit them. And then that's what you want to roll on your d20, or roll less, equal to or less than on a d20. And of course, a 1 is a critical. And in here, you add an extra die. So if you're using a longsword that does a 1d8, you will now add a second d8, and you will also double your modifier, which I thought was kind of cool. So that 1d8, if it's a critical, you'll roll 2d8 plus whatever your modifiers are. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Don't quote me. Buy the book, read it for yourself. I have a lot of rules going through my head, but if I vaguely remember it, it was that right. They have a section on fleshing out your character, which is pretty cool. I wanted to see, and they also give you an example of creating a character with a filled out character sheet. So it's kind of nice to give you an idea of where all that stuff goes. There is equipment and encumbrance in the cost for stuff. Armor gives you armor points. Of course, you have to be proficient in the armor to receive those armor points and get the benefit of that better armor. So a small shield is 2 armor points. Plate armor is 12 armor points. I'm just trying to see what they say. Your weapons all have a damage code. They fall into light, medium, or heavy. So a dagger is light melee. The damage die is a 1d6. But if you go to like a heavy crossbow, it's a 1d12. Tells you what skill it uses and what it requires and how much it costs, and if it has a range. So like that aforementioned heavy crossbow is a 2-handed weapon. It uses its heavy range, so it still uses your agility. It costs 350 gold pieces, but it has a 100-foot range, so that's pretty awesome. A longbow is 1d10, but a lance, and you have to use a lance mounted to get the 1d12. A longsword is 1d10, and it is 2-handed. A short sword is 2-handed or 1-handed. So they go through it, they tell you everything. There's also all your basic fantasy gear, backpacks, horses, hospitality, transportation, that kind of stuff. Then we get into playing the game, and they talk about edges and setbacks. Edges and setbacks are pretty cool because they are your advantage and disadvantage, basically. So let's see, let me get it. The player would make their might attribute check with a setback. That means the player rolls 2d20 and takes the highest number if they had an edge, or with a setback. So setbacks, you're required to choose the higher of the dice, e.g. disadvantage in D&D terms, and an edge would be advantage. So you get to take the lower of the 2 dice. So it's opposite of D&D. So again, because rolling low is good, rolling high is bad. So if you have edge, if the GM says, oh, this situation you have edge, you would roll 2d20 and take the lower of the 2 dice. If you had a setback, you would roll 2d20 and take the higher of the dice because, well, it's a setback. So that's pretty cool. The difficulty numbers are pretty easy, and there's a little chart here for difficulty. Contested checks, they tell you how to do that. Ability scores and what they're for, they go through each one. Combat. Combat's pretty cool. The way they do initiative is core. Combat order rolls. C-O-R. Core. To determine the order of combat, player characters taking part in the fight must make a combat order roll or a core roll. This is simply a reflex attribute check with no difficulty modifiers. If the roll is successful, the player characters act before the enemies. If not, then the player characters act after the enemies. The players may decide among themselves in what order they act in after the cores are made, but the order is fixed once the decision is made. The GM does not have to make a core for creatures. Once the players have made their rolls to determine whether they will act before or after their opponents, the GM is free to determine the order of creatures act in. So basically what they're saying is, if you're the player character, you're going to roll your reflex, and it's like a skill test. And if you succeed, so let's just say our reflex is 12. Again, that seems to be the magic number stuck in my head. If your reflex is 12, you just make a straight d20 roll. If you roll 12 or less, you have succeeded. And so those that succeed will go before the aforementioned goblins, since they are stuck in my head and everybody likes to pick on goblins. So the goblins just go. So the GM doesn't have to make a roll. I like that. It's less work and paperwork for the GM. So you can just have a tick mark on one side, and a tick mark on the other side. And then the players get to decide who's going to go first. So if the cunning folk has an awesome spell that will help the barbarian, maybe the barbarian wants to let the cunning folk or the mage go first in order to receive that benefit, and he made his roll and the mage made their roll. They're going to go before the goblins, and so they can do what they're going to do. Then once all they've gone, then the goblins will go, and then anybody who did not make their roll will go after the goblins go. I think this is very streamlined, very simple, and awesome. They talk about time, surprise, actions, and combats, which you can and can't do, ranged attacks, critical hits, and fumbles. See what they said. So let's see here. You roll a natural one on a d20, means it's a critical hit and has been made. Roll the damage die twice when this occurs, totaling the number and doubling any damage bonuses you receive. Can't beat that, man. That's pretty straightforward. That's pretty simple. So you could roll a second die, because I prefer, what player doesn't like to roll a bunch of dice? So that's super awesome. Talk about armor and combat and how it works. Armor points are reduced when damage is taken. Once all armor points have been reduced to 0, damage is taken from hit points as normal due to the weariness and fatigue. For example, a knight with 10 armor points takes 10 damage before damage starts to affect her hit points. So that's nice. Your armor has an X amount of damage. That's very much how SDC worked and hit points worked in like Palladium role-playing game. Your armor had a certain amount of hit points. When those hit points are gone, then it all goes to you. And as we saw, some of the armor is only 2 points. So if you get hit for 4 points, your armor's shot, and now it's all going to you. I believe the armor refreshes after basically a long rest. Once the players had time to redo his straps, pound out the dents, that kind of thing. And they're assuming that if you're a knight, you know how to adjust your own armor and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of conditions: healing, dying, spending valor points. Valor points are basically hero points, and basically you can get the boon of luck, which is to re-roll a die and keep the second roll. That costs you 1 point. Restoration, you gain 3 hit points, cost 1 valor point. Instincts, gain an edge on your next attack, 2 valor points, which I think is awesome. Say you're fighting something really tough and it has really high reflex, or it's a high, it's 2 or 3 levels higher than you. You have that aforementioned might of 12 and you're hitting with your short sword. It's going to be really hard to hit that 3 hit die creature, because that's going to take 3, so your 12 just went down to a 9. So that's pretty hard. God forbid it's a 4, because then you're going to, why are you fighting something that tough anyway? But it could happen. And so that's where that edge could come in handy. Rolling 2d20, you might get a second chance to roll. Roll a bonus of resolve, reduce damage taken by 5, cost you 2 points. Second chances, if you fall unconscious, you instead return to 1 hit point, but it costs you 3 valor points. And I believe you start with 3 valor points to start the game. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. Then it goes into adventuring in the perilous lands, travel, exhaustion, hazards, and all that stuff. And then it goes into magic, and that's where I'm reading up right now, because this magic system is pretty cool. And I mean, it goes into talking about monsters, all kinds of cool stuff, normal mundane stuff, but there's dragons, there's brigands, there's brownies, there's barbarians, banshees, assassins, there's quite a landshe, ogres, knuckleavie, merfolk, lubber fiend. There's all kinds of cool stuff. River hags, the green man, the Gugamagog, Gagamagog, which I believe is an Irish folklore monster. I've heard the term before, but another awesome picture of a knight fighting a giant. So I hope his shield is good. Guys, I can't say enough good stuff about this. This is really, really well written. It's very easy to read. I'm really impressed with how accessible this was. If you've got someone in your group that's new to role-playing and you want them to and they're into Arthurian history and mythology, this would make an excellent present. To be honest, I don't know how much this costs. Oh, it was $35 US. I'm sure it's cheaper on Amazon, but I'll put links to Osprey's site and to Amazon's site as well, if I can find them. And I'm sure you can get it on Drive-Thru RPG. It is phenomenal. It is awesome. I recommend you guys pick it up and give it a try if you're into Arthurian legend or European, Eastern or Western European mythology. It's Robin Hood. If you want to play in that genre, you could totally. There's really good background information in here. What's nice is this is not a 3,000 page book. I mean, we're looking at how many pages we got, not including index and character sheet. We are looking at 251 pages. So this is amazing. It's very well done, and it's a small book. I mean, it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. I mean, I've got fat man hands, but they're not huge. I think I wear an extra large glove, so that gives you the size of the book. It's not super duper huge. It's just, it's portable, and this is all you need. You don't need any other books, which is the nice part. You can just pick this up, and it's got your bestiary in here. It's got your character creation rules. It's got all your rules you need to run and host a game. So it's very well done. I can't say enough things about it. A huge thank you to Brian for buying this for me. I'm taking it as a Christmas present because he sent it right around, I think, just after Christmas. So super awesome. Let me know what you think about it if you pick it up. I think it should be in your gaming library. If you're into this, if you're into fantasy, mythological fantasy, I think this should be in your library. This is a great system. It appears to be really good mechanics, which who doesn't like good game mechanics? It is hardback. It is stitched, sewn, and glued in the binder, so it's going to last you a long time. And it's Osprey. They make quality products, and they stand behind their products. So, again, it's a buy in Mr. Mean's book. That's all I got for today. I hope you guys enjoy it. This will get uploaded tonight, so hopefully you guys will be able to see this shortly. Friday will be the recording of our live play. A bunch of nerds sitting around the table. If you're into watching that, hopefully you enjoy it, and you'll enjoy my storytelling and enjoy some players sitting around the table chucking dice. Other than that, till then, as always, what I always say, Mr. Mean says, be nice.